Episode 4 of the Ahsoka series probably left us on the biggest cliffhanger since Luke, I Am Your Father, and it has got people speculating very fast as to what is going to happen in Episode 5 this coming Tuesday. So I'm here to give my thoughts on what I think we are going to see in The World Between Worlds. So the other day I uploaded a video talking about the very wild theory that maybe what we saw at the end of Episode 4 of Ahsoka with Anakin showing up in The World Between Worlds wasn't actually Anakin, and I even said in that video, full disclaimer, so I'm not going back on that theory. However, I even said in that video that I think it is far-fetched, and I think it will just be Anakin, especially now that we are a few days removed, and I'm looking at the moment, how it's impacted the Star Wars fandom, how much people have been talking about that moment that ended Episode 4, and I just don't think, I think Dave Filoni's a lot smarter than this, I don't think Dave would give us that moment at the end of Episode 4 just to take it away from us for, oh, it's the son actually just disguising himself as Anakin. You know what I mean? It would be like the end of Mandalorian Season 2, and it was actually the son disguising himself as Luke Skywalker. Not saying that would make sense or that I'm just hypothetically saying, like, it would just kind of be a little bit out there, maybe a little bit ridiculous. It would almost kind of be ruining the moment a little bit, even though, benefit of doubt to Dave Filoni, he is the kind of guy who I think would take that risk, but also deliver on the back end. So even if it actually does end up being, oh, it's the son of the father, son, and daughter of the Mortis gods, like, even if it is actually the son, I do think Anakin shows up next week either way. But honestly, I do think that what we saw is a version, at the very least, of Anakin Skywalker. But that still opens up a ton of questions. Ahsoka, did she actually die, or is she just seeing this? Like, literally, is she just knocked out, like, in the water, by the rocks, whatever, like, where she fell? Or did she legitimately die and end up in the World Between Worlds? I do think that's probably what happened, just because we've kind of been down this road in a sense before in the Clone Wars and Rebels with Ahsoka, so it kind of fits. But like, when it comes to Anakin, it's very interesting because people were pointing out all the details of Anakin, just the way he looked himself. Is he a Force ghost? Is he not? Is it because he's not that blue Force ghost color? Is this the World Between Worlds where Jedi go when they die? If so, where's everybody else? Why did we only see Anakin? Why have we only seen like 4 people overall? 5, 3, whatever it's been. Ezra, Ahsoka, Anakin, am I forgetting anybody? In the World Between Worlds itself. People are pointing out that Anakin is in his Revenge of the Sith attire. People are debating back and forth whether it's Anakin's lightsaber, whether it's Darth Vader's lightsaber, and I'm just like, I don't know lightsabers like that, so you guys can pick. But I don't know, like, there's a lot of questions to be answered regarding the ending. Like, they literally left us on such a cliffhanger last week. Like, Ahsoka, she shows up in the World Between Worlds, Anakin's there, boom, episode's over. Just like, what? That's where you're gonna leave us? But what is truly gonna happen in Episode 5? You know, we all thought, like, Episode 5, that's gonna be it. That's where we're gonna see Anakin. Nobody was expecting him in Episode 4, but everyone was pointing to Episode 5 because that's the next Dave Filoni directed episode, because we all assumed, alright, Anakin, Episode 5, maybe even Thrawn. Episode 5, that's where we'll see those 2 iconic characters. And obviously, the way we ended Episode 4 the other night, it definitely looks like the majority of Episode 5 is going to be spent between Anakin and Ahsoka. I wouldn't mind if that was literally the entire episode and we don't see anything else, or we just see Thrawn at the end, and then Episode 6 comes around and we see what the hell else is going on. But if they spend just next Tuesday literally only focusing on Anakin and Ahsoka and the World Between Worlds and what that could possibly lead to, I'm all for it. And you know, another thing I said in my video the other day, and the very interesting thing is, like, we know enough but still know very little about the World Between Worlds. Like, people at first were like, is that even the World Between Worlds? But I was just like, oh yeah, that's just a live action depiction of it, a little bit more blue, watery, all that stuff. But like, what do we know about the World Between Worlds? We know it's not time travel, which is sick, because I really don't want crazy time travel in Star Wars. But it's basically just like this dimension in the Force where every moment happens all the time. I mean, literally, when we saw this place in Rebels, you're hearing stuff from the Phantom Menace, you're hearing stuff from all these iconic moments in Star Wars. It's a place that very few people have access to, and it's a place that you can basically hop in and out of history at any time. And with that, possibly changing the course of history. So what I think we're gonna see come next episode, I think we'll get some questions answered as to just why Anakin's there in the first place. But after that, what I truly think we are going to see, and I honestly hope this is like all of Episode 5 next week, is that Anakin and Ahsoka start taking a walk in the world between worlds. And this has been rumored for the longest time, so I'm not breaking any ground here. But they start taking the walk in the world between worlds, looking through all these different portals. And the basis of the episode being Ahsoka, it wasn't your fault, everything that happened. Because we still see that's been a major little subtle plot of the season so far, is that Ahsoka still blames herself. There was a line that she said to Hera in episode 2 where I was like, clearly she still blames herself for what happened to Anakin. And then in episode 4, Baylan even said it, you walked away from Anakin, blaming Ahsoka for everything that happened. So I think the basis for episode 5 will be Anakin showing Ahsoka that, listen, there's nothing you could have done. I would have made my decisions either way. The Jedi would have fallen, the Empire would have rised either way, whether you were there or not. The thing is, though, it's probably not just going to be some words that convinces Ahsoka. I think Ahsoka is going to need to go experience it for herself, which is where we get into the portals and where we start getting some absolutely crazy, mind-boggling Star Wars flashbacks. There's obviously the big one that people have been talking about for months, probably over a year at this point, is Ahsoka going into the moment, see it back there, going into the moment and fighting Anakin Skywalker on Mustafar, and then probably Anakin pulling her out right before she would have died. Like, imagine how, like, we've been talking about it for so long, but literally, put yourself in the situation of watching episode 5 next week, and we see Anakin, Revenge of the Sith eyes, just absolutely the top of his power, Anakin versus Ahsoka during that time on Mustafar. Imagine how crazy that's going to be, especially if as Ahsoka goes into these moments, or is at least seeing these moments, we're getting younger depictions of Ahsoka. That way it really feels like the time period. So it's Ahsoka in Clone Wars Season 7, you know, attire, if you will. That is going to be insane. And of course, if you do something like that, you're not changing the course of history, because it's only going to show you what would have happened if Ahsoka was there. It's not changing the course of history. But the very interesting thing to me is how insane was Anakin and Obi-Wan's fight on Mustafar. So now we're trying to put Ahsoka into that to see what would have happened. So imagine the kind of fight they're going to have. I'm not saying it's going to last as long as Anakin and Obi-Wan's did, but it might last a minute or two at least, and it's probably going to be super intense, and we're going to see Anakin just like we saw him on Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith, just absolutely full power, just going at Ahsoka. And then again, I think Anakin, like now Anakin, Force Ghost Anakin, whatever he is gonna pull Ahsoka out from the World Between Worlds portal right before like she would die on Mustafar. And that's literally like the icing on the cake. Imagine some of the other little portals, little scenes that we could see, even if it's just for a minute or a couple of seconds, that we could see through the World Between Worlds portals. We could literally and this was rumored. Shout out to Diamond Figs, he posted this on Instagram, but this is literally rumored, and I think it is going to happen. Some kind of Clone Wars flashback where we're going to see everybody in their Clone Wars armor, and I'm talking Anakin, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Captain Rex. Dude, I'm gonna be in shambles on Tuesday. A Clone Wars flashback, whatever it may be. Maybe it's just them looking into the moment where they were last all together, or maybe it's a completely new moment that we never saw, just trying to show, you know, it's something that could help teach Ahsoka the lesson, whatever. But it's literally a time period during Clone Wars. Maybe it's a few years before Revenge of the Sith, or right before, and it's Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Captain Rex, Clone Wars armor. Imagine how insane that will be. And I think you can add on to that even more if you really showed all of the errors, in a sense, of Ahsoka. Give us that season 7 Ahsoka through one portal, and then show us something that happened between let's say season 1 and season 3, so a younger Ahsoka. Give us something that where she's looking through a portal of something that happened in Rebels. Maybe they're literally looking at the Ahsoka versus Darth Vader fight, where Ezra of course pulled Ahsoka out to save her life. And I don't know what lesson could come from that, but imagine Anakin and Ahsoka looking through the portal where Ahsoka and Darth Vader, and obviously this would be a live action version, which would be insane, where Ahsoka and Darth Vader are fighting in the Temple of Malachor in Rebels, excuse me. That would be insane. And like, maybe getting all that is pushing it, but like, it's not out of the realm of possibility. If we literally spend all 30, 35, 40 minutes of next week's episode, whatever it is, just with Anakin and Ahsoka, and the whole point of the episode is Anakin teaching Ahsoka this lesson that she couldn't have helped Anakin's fall to the dark side and it would have happened anyway. Like, is it only going to happen through one flashback, through one, you know, putting Ahsoka in the moment in that fight with Mustafar? Or is he really going to take her around the bend and be like, look at all this, look at all, there's nothing you could have done, Ahsoka, this would have happened anyway? Like, we could even look through a portal where we see live action Ahsoka versus Darth Maul from the Siege of Mandalore and show what could have happened if Ahsoka went with Darth Maul. Like, there's, like, literally, that's the cool thing about the World Between Worlds is I don't think it's going to be used for any time travel or changing the course of history in a sense. I think it's just going to be used to give us these cool moments and in this sense teach Ahsoka the lesson and storyline purposes. But look at all the cool little things we could get, even if it's just for 30 seconds here, a minute here. It's groundbreaking stuff. And you know, one thing that would be really interesting is if we look through a portal showing the time period between Rebels and Ahsoka. You know, we're all talking about, they're talking about Ahsoka and Sabine training before and it didn't work out, but we never saw it. We've all brought that up. Maybe we're gonna see it through the World Between Worlds portal. We're gonna see where they went wrong, where Ahsoka went wrong in her original training with Sabine, and the whole situation of why they're even looking through that is so Ahsoka can learn her lesson to be a better leader going forward. And maybe that's why we haven't really talked about it much or seen it yet, because we're gonna see it, what actually happened in the World Between Worlds in episode 5. And then I think after all that, one of two things is going to happen. Ahsoka is either going to wake up because she just actually got knocked out and she didn't die, and she's going to wake up and be found by Hera and Jason, and maybe people have speculated this already, but maybe Jason sort of becoming one with the Force is going to help find the pathway to the galaxy, or just help find, you know, where Ahsoka is and bring her back to life, whatever. People have speculated that. Or if she did actually die, that maybe Anakin's going to put Ahsoka back in literally time in a sense. People have also rumored this back to where we were in episode 2, and I talked about this in the last video, where we saw basically a resemblance of what happened at the end of Rebels with Sabine and Ahsoka. And Ahsoka originally in Rebels was Ahsoka the White, but then when we saw her in episode 2 of the Ahsoka show, it was more Ahsoka the Gray, let's call her. And everyone was comparing it to Rebels, but maybe what we are going to see is Anakin putting Ahsoka back in that moment, now learning these lessons, now able to be a better teacher to Sabine, and we're going to see live action Ahsoka the White episode 2. So we're kind of retracing our steps, but the reason we do that is so Ahsoka knows what to do. She knows the path to follow. She knows how to stop Baylan and Morgan and stop them from going to the new galaxy, or at least get there before, you know, things go awry. I don't know, man. We got a lot of ideas, a lot of potential of what could come in episode 5 on Tuesday. So I want to throw the discourse out to you guys. What do you guys think is going to happen this coming Tuesday, episode 5 of the Ahsoka show? Do you think it was Anakin? What do you think is going to happen between Anakin and Ahsoka in the World Between Worlds? And how is Ahsoka going to enter the real galaxy, if you will, back into reality? Is she actually dead? Is she going to go back through a portal, go back in time, or did she literally just get knocked out and everything that we saw and are going to see is literally just in her mind? And be sure to stay tuned to the channel, because this Sunday we have a huge video going live 6 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going to be taking you guys on a tour of the Star Wars collection around the room, and also announcing a massive giveaway at the end of that video, so stay tuned. Be sure to like and subscribe, and go follow me across all social medias at Noah Nation Vlogs, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.
This is Rogue 2. This is Rogue 2. Commander Skywalker, do you copy? This is Rogue 2.